So I'll just give a brief introduction to what renewable energy can or could do for the community. The goals that we have is basically to empower you with facts and to give you a vision and educate about what is out there and what's available. The solar and any renewable energy, usually we don't look at as a complete replacement of your energy. It's a supplement. Now there are people who have basically taken renewable energy and replaced 90% of their bill, but we still tie into the grid, so we're still using the grid as support. As you know, solar will produce during the day and not during the night, and wind a lot of times produces during the night, or at least on windy times, and not all year round. So we're working together with the utility. The difference between any kind of renewable and the IOUs or public utilities is what we call distributed generation. And I'll explain this just a little bit. Distributed generation versus centralized generation. A utility or a public power has centralized generation, which is some kind of large power producing plant in central location and then sending that power out over transmission lines, which means there's maintenance, there's cost in large transmission lines. We need those. That's not, again, that's not replace it. But with distributed generation, it is each of you generating some percentage of your power. And what that does for us is multiple things. You're producing your own power, plus you're injecting that power throughout the country. So now, instead of building large transmission lines, upgrading the transmission lines, which we'll talk more about, is a distributed power generation throughout the country. Much more efficient than one large system. So what is net metering? Again, like I said a little bit ago, net metering is the thing that makes solar or any renewable energy economical, where it's beneficial to you. That is, how does the utility handle, because you're still using the electric lines from the public utility. So LMU, again, has done a great job with this. They have, in Indiana, we'll see in a future slide here, Indiana has required net metering, and I'll explain that a little bit, for any investor-owned utility. NIPSCO, Duke, can't name all the others right now, Indiana, Michigan Power, they're required to do net metering. Any co-op or municipality is not required to give you net metering. LMU has stepped out and has given you net metering, so that is a positive. It allows for you to basically, any electricity you produce it at any time during the year, and any excess that you produce, they store as a credit and give back to you when you need it, when you're not producing it. You'll see on the upper left, you've got symbols of solar panels, and then you have the inverter, which inverts that power to match the utility. From that point, it goes into your main breaker box, and then from there it goes out to the meter. So anything that's being produced, if I can explain this, anything that's being produced from your solar, if you're producing 50 kilowatt hours and you're using 30, you've got 20 extra. This is in the middle of the day, it's going out to the utility. Tonight, when the sun goes down, you're not producing anything, now they give that back to you. It's net metered. Everything you give them, they give 100% back. During the summer, your solar is producing more than you're using, and during the winter, you use those credits up. Those credits can be carried on from year to year to year. And the idea, again, is only to replace the power that you're using. You're not trying to create and become a power plant where you're selling it. Wind is just the opposite. It will be producing power at night a lot of times and on cloudy days, and then during the quiet summer days you can use that energy up. That's net metering. This shows you a little bit what solar has been doing. This again is specifically to solar, not all renewable energy, but this graph here shows you back in 2005 is that date, the number of people who have put solar into the grid obviously is growing at a rapid pace. This will show you each utility and how they've promoted it. Duke Energy actually been one of the promoters of adding solar. They have a lot of solar on their own as far as large solar farms, and they encourage their customers to install solar. These numbers are quite a bit higher by this time, but as of the end of 2012, that shows you the number of customers on those utilities. This here shows you the graph of the different types or sources of electricity. Again, coal, natural gas, nuclear, and so forth. As you can see on here, solar or any kind of wind is still a very small portion of our percentage of energy being produced from renewables. This graph here shows you electricity rates across the last about 20 years, actually about 10 years, I guess. When you look at this graph, you'll see there's a lot of spikes in it, but overall, our energy prices are continuing to go up. We have no control over that. Energy prices are going to continue to climb. Different areas, different co-ops have different price levels, but the overall scale has been climbing on energy costs. That's why I said come back to the cost of solar. Cost of installing solar actually has dropped, and you can see this, way back in the days of NASA in the 40s, the price for solar was extremely high. That has come way down. Now there's 4 components to any solar system. You have solar panels, you have the inverter that inverts the power to match the grid, then you have hardware and labor. Obviously, labor, hardware, and the inverter costs have really not changed that much. So we're only dropping the price on 25% of the total cost, but that price has come way down. The other question that we get a lot in this area, I just want to slow this slide yet, is does solar work in Indiana? The largest user of solar energy as far as a country is Germany, and they have a lot less sun hours than what we do here in Indiana. This slide is just comparing Chicago versus Miami, Florida. And you can see, obviously, in the months of January, February, March, and October, November, December, they produce a lot more on a solar system in Miami than we do in Chicago. But in Chicago, or in the northern part of the country here, we actually produce more from solar in the summer than they do. Several reasons. Solar is more efficient when it's cooler, which is cooler here during the summer, and our days are actually longer. The further away we get from the equator, the longer our days are. So there's plenty of sunlight in Indiana to use for solar. Like I said, Germany, the largest country of solar usage, is way ahead of us. They have less sun hours. Even Canada, north of us here, has a lot more solar than we do.